Hey, what is up, DCS crew? This is going to be a special video, more of knife education and really what I look into when I am researching a knife that I want to buy. A lot of people go by certain blade lengths. A lot of people go by certain blade shapes. A lot of people are brand centric. I tend to look at things that are a little bit deeper, and it's kind of the knife nerd in me and the math nerd in me that does this, but I look into the ratio of blade to like overall length of the knife, because at the end of the day, while exotic materials and stuff like, deep carry clips and all that stuff, are included or can be obtained for those knives to be able to situate it on how you pocket carry, or how you choose to carry it, or how, much weight goes into it. At the end of the day, you're more interested in paying for durable steel. And, for me, it's like, okay, how much steel am I paying for? How durable is the steel? How's the quality? How's the heat treatment? What's the price? What's the overall ratio of the steel to the actual rest of the knife? Because obviously that could throw off the balance of the knife in your hand, and it can make a lot of things happen. So in this particular case, I'm going to talk about the blade and how much blade that you get on knives like these, which are all made in the USA, by the way, and how I found out which one works best for me. And the results might actually surprise you, so stay tuned. All right, guys, what's up? So back at it, and I have a couple of blades here. Some you may know of, some you may not. I'm just gonna go ahead and go across the line from left to right, just to kind of talk a little bit about each one, starting with this guy on the left. This is one of my favorite slip joints, and it's a lightweight knife. It's in one hell of a good performing steel by Spyderco. Some say, too good, because it's a pain in the ass to be able to go ahead and hone and resharpen once it's been dulled out, which I do my best to keep it from being that happening. This is the Spyderco UK pen knife in CPM S110V. It is a non-locking knife with a deep carry clip and FRN handles, extremely lightweight, from Spyderco. This is a Salglasser design, made here in the USA in their Golden, Colorado location. Another knife that is a staple of my collection is the Spyderco Para 3. This one has been upgraded with an MXG deep carry clip, and it's just the standard S30V and black G10. In all honesty, this one has worked really well. Nice flat grind, full flat grind actually, also made in Colorado. Now, switching it up, we have the Hogue Deca. This is the, if I'm not mistaken, the clip point. I could be wrong. I apologize for that. But this one is made here in the USA. This also has a deep carry clip that is aftermarket. This is from MXG, like this one. And this one is a deep carry clip that is from, that is originally made for the ZT-0450. So if you're interested in a deep carry clip for this particular knife, which is left and right hand tip up carry, you can choose to go ahead and pick this one up, and it will it works really well. And the fact is, it's got that stonewash titanium that works really well with this stonewash blade in 20 CV steel, in a Leishowitz design from Hogue Knives named the Deca. So check that out. Now, this one is a little bit more controversial, because this is a Buck Knives, the Marksman, the model 830, but it is not. So basically, there was a G&G Hawk collaboration with Buck that resulted in the Buck Marksman. They have a Tonto blade, and then they have this blade shape here with 154 cm steel, if I'm not mistaken, with the Boss heat treatment and aluminum scales from Buck. Now, SK Blades took that particular model and they said, you know what, let's go ahead and revamp it a little, and let's put some G10 handles on it. They created a green, an OD green G10 version, as well as an orange. and a gray version, which is the one that you see right here. This is the 830, a buck marksman from SK Blades, dubbed the Gray Ghost, deep carry clip, S35BN Boss heat treated steel with a stonewashed blade, and really awesome locking mechanism, as well as the action. Probably the best action of all of my knives here. So that brings me to my next one. This one I have not discussed at all, and it has not really come up in my channel much. And this is an exclusive that is no longer available from GP Knives. Huge shout out to them, because they actually hooked me up with this, as well as a couple of decals. And where the hell are they? You know what, I'm gonna throw them up here. There we go. GP Knives actually sent this one to me after I bought it, of course. This is the ProTech Emerson collaboration, named the CQC7A. These come in a bunch of different formats, and typically when you find a ProTech, no matter whether it's an Emerson collab or any of the other ones, typically what you'll find is that it's aluminum on both sides. That's typically what they use for their scales, unless it's upgraded and has inlays and that sort of thing. But this one is unique in that the entire front slab is micarta, and then this one's half smooth and half textured micarta. Really great in the hands, feels really good. Acid washed 154 cm blade, and of course fires open like the rest of them. It does have a three screw standardized clip, which is ProTech, Emerson, and Benchmade compatible. So guess what? I went ahead and I put a Benchmade bug out clip on there. So there you have it. That is the ProTech Emerson collaboration CQC7A. So why did I pick these up? Well, there is a reason, and the reason might surprise you. So what I was doing is I was trying to find out how the knives feel in the hand, and with what the uses that I am going to be, putting these for, if I'm getting the right amount of blade for the money. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because, you can get some of these knives and you get, these really large handles and these really small blades. But at the end of the day, you're not paying for, all that handle. While that all looks cool, you're paying for, the knife steel. You're paying for S35BN, 20CV, S30V, S110V, 154 cm, and, other ones, XHP, a CPM D2, which is, which is commonly misassociated with a D2, and it's a way better steel than D2. CPM 154, I could go on and on. But when I look into these, it's a very simple way to find out what the blade ratio is, even in percentage form, and that's what I typically do. I take the usable blade length, not the total blade length, because a lot of places will advertise, oh, it's got, a 3-inch blade length. Yeah, and then like 2.6 of the blade length is usable, which is, that's the true blade length for me, because that's what I can use, right? So I take that portion, the usable blade length, and then I divide it by the actual overall length of the blade, and then it gives me the overall usable percentage of the knife that I am purchasing, the blade. Okay, so from left to right, this is what the results were, and this is what kind of surprised me. Okay, so first off, before I do that, which one of these do you think has the least amount? I would pick probably one of these two, right? Maybe even this guy. Well, the truth is, if I was to go ahead and line these up by the ones that, by smallest to largest, it would be just like this. Let's see here. Okay. And there you have it. Is that not surprising? Okay, so from left to right, I'll talk about it. Okay, first off, you have the Spyderco Para 3. Now, this is 7¼ inches in length, and it says it has a 3-inch blade, but the truth is you only get 2.7 inches out of the blade that's actually useful. In fact, just a little bit less on this one, because I went ahead and I put a sharpening choil on there when I went ahead and I sharpened it. You probably see it there. Yeah, it looks like you can see it. Okay, so actual sharpened length that I can use, the usable portion of the blade is 2.7 inches out of the 7¼ inch total overall length, which means 37.24% of this blade is usable. And that's the actual knife that I'm going to be using. So that's actually the smallest percentage, on here. So moving on to the next one, the Emerson ProTech. Great knife. I mean, feels great in the hand, it has a really good grind to it. I mean, I'm a big fan of it, to be completely honest. And this is the only Emerson that I own. I was never gonna get one of those cheap Kershaw Emersons, and I figured this would be a nice delve into Emerson without having to actually buy, and shell out all that change for something that I probably am not gonna like. And I'm not disappointed by this at all, but I will say, overall length is just under 7.9 inches. It's 7.88, and the usable blade is actually 3.19. Now, unlike Spyderco, it actually goes pretty far, and it has a little sharpening tool there. I didn't have to go ahead and put anything there. I have used it and I have sharpened it on my KME, which is why it has that working edge on it. So 3.19 out of an overall length of 7.88 translates to 41.75%. That is actually usable blade length on the entire, the knife itself. So that's what you're getting with them. So these are the two shorties. On to the Elisha Woods model. This is the Hogue Deca, made in the USA, 20 CV steel. This is what a lot of people consider to be the Para 3 lightweight and the bug out killer. I personally think the same. There will be a review of this going on in the future, but I did want to talk about this. So the Deca. It has 7.5 inches overall, but it has 3.15 inches of the blade that is actually usable. And it's probably got a little bit more because there is a pretty aggressive belly right here towards the top. So cutting edge may be a little bit more than that, but I've measured it from the tip all the way to right here at the very, very edge, and it came out to be let me see, what did I have here? 3.16 inches. So out of an overall length of 7.5 inches with 3.16 of a usable blade, that comes out to 42.13% of overall usable blade length on the actual knife, which is a pretty good kind of middle of the road when you're looking at these knives usage. I mean, it feels good in the hand, and as you can see, it's very close in size to, as far as the scales are concerned, to the Para 3, but you get so much more blade ratio out of this one. I mean, we're talking about 5% more out of this one than the actual Para 3. So that's something to consider, especially when you're looking at pricing. It's a very, very tough polymer. It doesn't flex like the bug out. I highly recommend the Hogue Deca. Review on that one coming soon. So on to the next one, the Spyderco UK PK. So this one surprised me the most out of everybody. This was like the unsung hero. So the Spyderco, the UK pen knife, it is actually the only one out of all these that does not lock. Okay, it is the only one that comes with a wire clip, unlike let me see, this one that actually has a deep carry clip. All the other ones have had aftermarket clips. This one comes from factory, and this one comes from factory, but this is the wire clip. So aside from that, this also has, a different blade shape variant that you can get, but I actually prefer this one. It actually reminds me a lot of the Para 3 style and has that full flat grind with S110V on it. I mean, this thing is a slicing monster, and it's great. It's very office friendly. It's nice and thin. I mean, it works. It's a nice one-handed slip joint that I've been using for quite some time, and it just works for me. So overall length on this guy, which surprised me, was under 7 inches. It's actually just under 6.9. It comes in at 6.88 inches in length, and of that, the usable blade portion is actually 2.93 inches. Now, that doesn't seem like much. In fact, it's only slightly more than what's on the Para 3, which is kind of surprising because if you look at them right next to each other, it looks like a smaller knife, right? But it actually has slightly more actual usable blade length than the Para 3, which translates to, okay, when I go ahead and I do the math here, 2.7 out of the 7.25 end up at 37, 2.93 out of the 6.88 overall inches. That's 42.58% usable blade out of the entire knife itself. So it actually blew all of these other ones away with the actual ratio. Great ratio as far as blade to handle in the overall knife for the UK penknife. And it's kind of interesting that this is something that was made to satisfy laws outside of the US. Although it's made here in the US, it is a non-locking knife that you can use outside in places like the UK. If I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong, but that's the reason why they came up with the UK PK, which is the UK penknife. Now, that brings me to the Buck Marksman, which is the SK Blades Grey Ghost. Something that I never really took the time to be able to review because when I got it, it had already been out for quite some time. But I will tell you that this is a fantastic knife, okay? Now, the overall blade length, the usable blade length, okay, is 3.63 inches. That's pretty much more than any of the ones that you see here on the table, okay? And the overall length on this guy is 8 1/4 inches. So 8.25 inches and 3.63 inches of that is usable blade length. So that translates to 44%, and that is the badass out of all of these. You get almost 45%. Okay, we're talking 44 and oh man, what was the exact amount? It's 45.45, like almost endlessly. So let's say it's 45.5, okay? Percent of the knife is actually blade, okay? So, you know, you can pick this up at skblades.com. I do believe they have a short amount, short supply still available. We're looking at about 124 on this one, about 100 on this one. Depending on where you get this, it can go up to 140, let's say. This isn't being sold anymore, but if I recall correctly, this cost me about 189. And then depending on whether you get this on the secondary market, you know, Spyderco Second, or even just, you know, buying it, it can be as cheap as $55 if you buy it at the Spyderco Second sale, which is actually what I did, but that's, I guess, for another video. Or you can get it for up to, I don't know, 130, 140. I don't even know how much they are because they have so many variants and so many versions. They have the DLC, they have the version with, you know, serrations and all that. So let's just say 135. Okay, we'll just call that. So this is what you're paying for these knives, and this is the amount of actual knife that you are getting out of them. So take that into consideration the next time you're looking into buying a knife and you see all of those numbers that they give you on places, you know, on Blade HQ, on, you know, like GP Knives, Knife Joy, SK Blades, you know, American Edge, and all these other really great places where you can actually pick up knives. Take those numbers into consideration and, you know, throw them onto the calculator. Say, okay, well, you know, I've got the 2.93, you know, in usable blade length out of an overall length of 6.88. You know, you do the 2.93 divided by the 6.88 and it gives you the actual percentage. You take that, you multiply it by 100, and that's the exact percentage that you would get of the length portion out of the knife. The more of a blade ratio, the higher the blade ratio, that means you're going to get that much more of the knife, and you're going to see it's going to look a little bit more ergonomically correct, or anatomically correct, if you will. You know, like I was saying before with the Deca and the Para 3, I mean, you close both of these and they look very similar as far as size. This one looks a bit fatter, obviously, but I mean, you know, we're talking about like size-wise, length-wise, it's very, very close, okay? But then you open them, okay? And you look at them side by side and you're like, dude, the Deca is actually much bigger. And it actually is, which is crazy. So it just makes me feel like the company is putting more blade and more, you know, quantity and quality in that particular case into a knife. So that's something to consider. I highly recommend you take that into consideration the next time you are buying your knives. And I mean, just keep in mind, if you are looking for a particular knife, you can't seem to find it, as long as it's something that's not one of those one shots that came out like years ago, give me a contact. I mean, you know, send me a message, you know, via Instagram or, you know, via my website at dailycarrysolutions.com, and I'd be more than happy to help if I can, right? So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. And just remember, no matter what you EDC, just remember, if you EDC, think of DCS. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.